want to bring in now Zachary Marschall. He is the editor-in-chief of Campus Reform, a conservative watchdog to the nation's higher education system. Zachary, thanks for being with us tonight. How can universities better protect students as tensions remain extremely high given the conflict overseas?
Universities have to be proactively against anti-Semitism, and that is not something that they have chosen to done until the last 48 hours. We have seen in the last few days Harvard University, University of Pennsylvania, and Columbia University set up anti-Semitism advisory groups or task force to address the longstanding issue on the campuses. But this is a PR move that was concocted up in the last 12 hours or so. For years, Campus Reform has been reporting on anti-Semitism in higher education, and those who are running the education system and the individual universities were turning a blind eye because it was inconvenient for them. So we need more of what we're seeing in the last 1 to 2 days here, but we need actual genuine commitment to it, not just statements to make presidents feel better about themselves.
Well, Zachary, without a doubt, we're seeing a massive increase in anti-Semitism across the world and here in the U.S. Take a listen to what the FBI director had to say.
The Jewish community is targeted by terrorists really across the spectrum. Homegrown violent extremists, foreign terrorist organizations, both Sunni and Shia, domestic violent extremists, and in fact, our statistics would indicate that for a group that represents only about 2.4% of the American public, they account for something like 60% of all religious-based hate crimes.
So the FBI director gives those numbers. Those are very high numbers, very concerning against the Jewish people. What do you make of the impact the war is having on hate crimes against Jews?
The war, I think, is counterintuitive for people to think about this way, but the war is not increasing anti-Semitism in America. The level we're seeing has always been there, especially in higher education. The difference now is that it's being taken out of classroom discussions and out of peer-reviewed articles and being put public on college quads and on social media, like we saw with that Cornell student. So now Americans have to face, the hatred and monstrosity that was always there, that they never really wanted to admit was brewing underneath the surface of polite society.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of those Ivy League schools now forming these task forces. Do you think other schools will follow suit?
I would like to think that. I'm pessimistic on that, because if we're looking at what's happening in California, that is the center of the storm right now. All the ideological rationalization for how anti-Israel work and speech gets paraded around college campuses as a mask for anti-Semitism is coming out of California. You can look at the calls for intifada against Jews at UCLA, the University of California ethnic studies professors saying we shouldn't call Hamas a terrorist group. They have the majority, they have the power. So the people standing up for Jewish safety, people standing up for democratic values are in the minority in higher education. So we can see individuals like Mark Rowan or John Huntsman at UPenn push back. We can see people like Larry Summers push back at Harvard, but let's not mistake, who actually has the power and who has the majority in higher education.
Well, speaking of that, New York Governor Kathy Hochul says she is going to be directing $50 million to local law enforcement to help prevent and solve hate crimes. She said that these people are going to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. But what are some real sustainable steps to combating this issue?
When it comes to anti-Semitism, specifically on college campuses, look at the work that's being done in DEI offices, in the promotion and hiring committees. They need complete transparency and complete overhaul. Kathy Hochul, like many other governors in the last 5 years, has supported a wave of DEI initiatives and programming and anti-racism messaging. All that stuff comes out of higher education. And it's been well documented that universities like Stanford University systematically excluded anti-Semitism and Jews as a form of hatred or as a specific minority that faces persecution in their DEI curriculum and initiatives. So we need to overhaul and create accountability for the anti-Semitic DEI, anti-racism, and social justice initiatives and curriculum that are being allowed to promulgate on college campuses before we can hope to see leaders outside of campuses take a further stand against the rhetoric that allowed us to get to this point.
Zachary Marschall, Editor-in-Chief at Campus Reform, thank you very much.